Yes, sir. It is a Thursday night in late May in Northeast Ohio. My name is Brad Ward. This is another edition of All Eyes on Cleveland, presented by Blue Wire Hustle. I have a special guest with me tonight. Friend of show, friend of mine, the great, the one and only Garrett Bush of 92.3 The Fan. He is the host of the Barbershop every Saturday, 8 to noon. Also co-host of the Cleveland Browns Tailgate Show, 10 a.m. to kickoff on Sunday game days. That's also on 92.3 The Fan. Also go to YouTube channel, The Barbershop. What is up, my man, G. Bush?
Hey man, what's going on, man? Listen, first and foremost, man, I'm gonna shout you out. Big ups to you for your 1,000 subscribers. You hit 1,000 subscribers. That's a beautiful thing. Shout out to you and everything you're doing. I'm coming and check out the new digs. The stream looks crazy. We haven't talked in a while, but we're gonna have some fun tonight, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, it is. It has been too long, and I thank you for that. And more than anything, I thank everybody listening. Obviously, anybody that has listened and subscribed, thank you all so much. We hit the 1,000 mark, and big ups to everybody that listens to the show and watches. So thank you so much for doing that. But tonight we are here to focus on G. Bush of 92.3 The Fan. And so these projections been coming out everywhere. So I wanted to do a projection show with you and just kind of talk things out. But before we get into all that, I haven't spoken to you since free agency or the draft. So I kind of want to just get your feelings on, Andrew Berry, the free agency. He knocked it out of the park. The draft. Just give me your overall thoughts and takeaways of what has happened this offseason with the Browns.
I did a show probably about 4 or 5 months ago now, and it talked about the foundation of the Cleveland Browns, and it actually talked about what Dorsey had done. And if you look back at what the Browns have been bringing to the table, he was able to kind of lay the foundation, the basement, some of your structures, the roof and all those good things, right? You were able to get Nick Chubb, who has turned into probably one of the top 2 or 3 running backs in the game. You're able to find your quarterback in Baker Mayfield, who looks like he's our franchise quarterback and leads you to your first playoff win. You also look at the guys that he was able to bring in along with that and kind of, mix and match. You got your Denzel Ward in his drafts. He was able to go out and get Jarvis Landry, who changed, in my opinion, the franchise of the way that we look at the Browns as far as the competitive nature. Then he was able to bring splash guys in. He's able to go out and get Odell Beckham Jr. Then he goes out in one of the most underrated signings that I think that people don't look at the time is Kareem Hunt out of Kansas City. He was in trouble. That was a controversial signing. So he goes and gets Kareem Hunt. You pair that with Nick Chubb, and now you have the best backfield in the game. But I look at that and say, okay, well, Dorsey was able to do that. What is Berry going to bring to the table? So I always said, look, we got to have, if Dorsey put in all the basement and the studs and the roof and all that good stuff with the structure, now you got to come in and finish the house. You got to come in and give me my accent pieces. You got to come in and put the furniture in the house. You got to put lamps and throw a coat of paint on the walls and make this thing look great. Get my man cave together. And you know what he did? He got all that together. He goes and gets Tank McKinley and Jadeveon Clowney, both upgrades as far as athleticism and what they can do in taking over for Olivier Vernon. He then brings Malik Jackson into the fold at defensive line. He gets rid of Sheldon Richards, $13 million, and he's able to come all over the board. He's able to go get a John Johnson in the secondary, who's rated probably one of the highest safeties in the game. You're able to go get Troy Hill over there, number 1 corner as far as being a defensive back and in slot. You bring him in. And then, of course, you're still able to have guys over there like Greedy Williams, who you were able to have. And then you have your draft. And then the Browns, by all intents and purposes, had an A-plus draft. JOK in the second round is a slam dunk. I thought I was going to get him. I wanted him in the first round. But you were able to get Newsom in the second at corner right there. And then I love what they did as far as being able to fill in some of those guys. Togiai, one of the strongest guys at Ohio State. one just plays hard, plays his tail off, and going to get Schwartz out of Auburn, upgrading that speed on the outside. I just think overall, if you look from draft all the way back to free agency, I think Andrew Berry is just showing that, hey, we got Kevin Stefanski, the coach of the year, but I think you got a future GM or front office guy of the year, Andrew Berry, and showing what he can bring to the table.
Yeah, no question about it. And, the one move that I questioned a little bit, G. Bush, in the draft was the Schwartz pick. Not because, obviously, I knew they needed speed, right? But I was just like, I don't know if this guy is just a track guy or can, you know what I mean? Because he kind of comes across that way. But he's impressed me with the work ethic, right? Like being down in Miami with Landry, putting in the work there, being in at rookie camp. And it just seems like he is a guy that's going to work his ass off, and I'm all about that. So if he wants to refine his craft and become a really good receiver, I feel better about the pick now that I've seen him kind of show that work ethic and show that he's serious about being a receiver. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when you look at it, that's one of the things that we always say. Guys that are really, really fast, are they track guys? Are they straight line guys?
Yeah.
And one of the things that if you guys, for your audience out there taking a look, he has a really, it's kind of a path to the draft 3-part series in terms of, his life. And it shows how he started off as just a receiver, started off as a guy who used to play offensive line as a little kid. And he progresses and keeps moving to the point where, he becomes one of the fastest guys running track in pretty much the world. I mean, he's a world-class track guy. One of the things that really impressed me with him was him working with Randy Moss, working with Jarvis Landry, and guys saying to him, like, he's a guy that looks like he's a quirky guy. I love his personality. He's a guy who likes comic books, really complimentary of his mother and his grandmother raising him. I just like his personality, and I think this kid is going to be a guy who's going to continue to work at route running, continue to work at getting open, and that's a craft. Guys like Devontae Adams, if you just watch him, that's a whole craft. That's a whole artistry of being able to get off the line of scrimmage and running routes. I think he has two guys, that Odell Beckham Jr. with great hands, great route runner ability, and Jarvis Landry. I think he has all the tools and all the the people in the room to help him out to become that route runner.
I agree. I gotta ask you, G. Bush, and you're watching All Eyes on Cleveland with special guest Garrett Bush of 92.3 The Fan. What's going on with your background there? It looks like are you in the Four Seasons in New York City, or what? Hell is what's going on back there?
I told my mom, shout out to my mother. My mother she's a really talented individual. I mean, she's my stylist, she's my interior decorator, and I told her, I said, listen, man, we're gonna start doing live streams this year. I'm like, I can't be coming out here, live stream game competitive now. You can't be out here with just no background no more. You got to have stuff and banners. And I said, yo, I want to do a lot of stuff. I want to be the Black Johnny Carson. She was like, all right, I'll tell you. So she got me together in the background, man. So shout out to her. And, I'm really thankful that she's able to help me out and do stuff like that. So that's what I'm going for.
It's impressive. That's probably one of the best ones I've seen, G. Bush. That's nice. You look like
I appreciate that, man. And shout out to Dorothy Bush. Shout out to salute. See, mom, I told you, man.
Yep. All the moms out there for sure. But yeah, that you look like you're styling, profiling, like you got you're in some kind of suite or something. I can't really figure it out but you got the city background. I mean, it's nice. It looks nice, man. It looks nice.
Man, I appreciate that.
All right, G. Bush, I'm going to go to, you played football where I went to school. We were on the campus at the same time, but we missed each other somehow. I'm sure you were
I'm sure we drank a beer together. See, at OU, yes. The great thing about OU is, and you know this more than whenever, it's not about what you do as far as being a basketball player or a football player or whatever. The best thing about OU is you can be somebody just for throwing the greatest parties. You can be somebody just by how many nights you in a bar. And people say, well, who's the big man on campus at OU? It ain't football. It ain't basketball. It ain't hockey. It's the bartenders. If you get it, if you turn out, you listen. If you tell me you in the CI, you in the Crystal, you at Paupers, you at the Red Brick, you over at Bronies. Listen, if you're a bartender anywhere in the country at OU, you are the man. You are the man. Nothing wrong with that, bro.
Nothing wrong with it at all. So I spent several months there every night. So it was a great time in my life for sure in Athens, Ohio. But yeah, we were there at the same time, didn't know each other, but you were on the football team, and you played edge, right, for the Bobcats. All right, so defensive line play. I want to ask you kind of what's going on. You know more than defensive line play, but you know what I'm saying.
That's my wheelhouse.
Yeah, that's your wheelhouse. So they loaded up on some young talent here at the defensive tackle position. So they let Sheldon go, and then they draft Togiai. I don't know. I want to know your thoughts on Jordan Elliott in his first year, because I've talked to some people that are kind of like, the tape isn't that great, right? Marvin Wilson, priority UDFA from Florida State, great 18 and 19 on tape. They kind of played him out of place in 2020. He disappeared, right? He would have been maybe a first-round draft pick, potentially, right? The talent is there. Malik McDowell, dude was a savage at Michigan State. A one-man defensive line. Like, he is freakish, right? Got himself into some trouble, but has found the right path. We had a guy on our show that did the Gridiron Showcase that actually got to do a free agent showcase with McDowell and said he seemed humble and like his life was getting turned around. And then, this is the first character guy that Andrew Berry has really kind of reached on, right?
Right.
So with him and then Damian Square, who's like a 10-year vet, right? So they bring a lot of talent into the room that isn't going to make the team. There's really 4 spots, right? Maybe 5 if you manipulate it, but probably 4 spots. What's going on there? Who do you like there? Tell me. I mean, I guess it kind of depends on Elliott, how many spots are available. You expect Togiai to make the team?
Here's the thing about Togiai. Here's the thing. He's a guy, and I watched him at Ohio State this year. He's a guy that, when you go to camp, I've had a lot of injuries. So, I've torn my ACL in both knees, back surgery, neck surgery, all that good stuff. So one of the things that you got to realize is availability is key. If you're a defensive lineman and you want to make this squad, right, there's going to be times where you're not going to have Jadeveon Clowney playing. Malik Jackson is coming off an injury with the bone foot injury in his foot. He's not going to be playing every single day. He ain't going to be doing that. And that you got Myles Garrett, who's not going to be playing every day. So what you're going to have is individuals who can make splash plays, be consistent, and be somebody they can count on. The guy who's going to take these positions at defensive tackle is the guy out there every single day that can take the reps. And people say, well, why would that be? Because it's a rep game. At defensive line, you need reps. And receiver is the same way. It's about who's going to be able to take those reps. And if you got a guy like Togiai, who you look at him, strong kid, works his tail off. A guy that's not going to make, he's not going to be the dude that keeps showing up on plays that he's getting tackles for loss, but he's going to be in his gap. He's going to get nice get off. He's going to have punch. He's going to be a guy that's going to consistently be out there. So what you got to do, if you want to be him out on the roster, you got to say every day he wake up and make it, and he's not out with a hamstring or a bump or a bruise, I got to be out there too, because he's a guy that's going to be consistently going every single day in his motor. So that's one of the guys I think that has an inside shot because of his consistency. Now, when you talk about talent, the two other guys, Malik McDowell. Listen, I'll tell you what. Go back a couple years at Michigan State. First of all, when it's a ball player, when you got a single digit or unorthodox number at defensive line. We talk about 4. 2 guys with Malik McDowell 4 and Wilson out of Florida State with the 21. I mean, those aren't traditional numbers. You coming out of high school. Both guys highly touted, but when you talk about him, he's a grown man. McDowell, as far as the size, he's a guy that is your prototypical 3 technique when you're talking about like, hey, we want you to get upfield and get some money off. We want you to get after people, and he can do that. He has length. He's powerful. If you can get, he's coming off injury. I think he had either a dirt bike or a 4-wheeler injury of some sort.
Yeah.
If he can come back, and I'll tell you what, if he can come back and be humble, he's a guy who has more talent than everybody in the defensive tackle room right now.
That's what I think too. Yeah.
Right now, today, he got the most talent as far as that goes. But is he going to be able to scave off the injuries? Is he going to be able to keep his head on straight? And is he going to be consistent? Because that's one of the things you want to see. We want to see consistent pad level, consistent get off, and consistent, punch and being violent at the line of scrimmage. So that's a guy. When you look at Wilson, you're exactly correct. They played him out of position. Mm-hmm. And when you looked at his tape of a couple of years ago at Florida State, he was a man amongst boys. I mean, he's not your just, 310, 15-pound guy that's just going to stay in his gap. He has the ability to rush the passer. He has the ability to get upfield. He uses his hands very well. Thing I worry about with him a little bit is pad level, because he is about 6'3". Usually when you want a nose technique or a nose, you want to get him 6'1", 6'2". Those guys, when you get your pad level up top, especially up in the middle of the field, that's when you get into trouble. But I tell people all the time, anytime you get an undrafted free agent and they give you guaranteed money like that, they think you all right. They think for sure. You got an inside track to that. So I'm interested in seeing those two guys. And people say, well, why did you give up on Sheldon Richardson? And I said, well, listen, Sheldon Richardson, if you look at his PFF grades, I mean, he played all right. He played decent, but he wasn't a top 20 defensive tackle. And at $13 million, you look at some of the people they brought in, if they can get right and they can get healthy and get younger, you look at the Browns and they say, okay, they hit a home run, especially if you can get one of those two guys in McDowell or Marvin Wilson to play where they were a couple years ago.
Yeah, I mean, the Sheldon Richardson thing is kind of sad just because I liked him a lot. And let's see, G. Bush chain is fire.
Hey, man, we working out here, man. And you got to get the shout out to the Cuban. You got to get the Cuban. Shout out, my man.
It is fire. All right. And then, but yeah, I mean, Sheldon, it was sad to see him go because he's kind of a heart and soul guy. He went through some of the pains and, he was there. I put him there with Landry. It was sad to see him go, but he's just not worth $13 million. He's just not going to ever get that in a million years on the open market. And you can't just pay that just because you want to keep him around. So I wish they would have renegotiated something with him. Obviously, that would have been ideal. But bringing Malik Jackson in is almost an eye for an eye, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. It's about the same on par. And Malik Jackson is a 1-year deal. I think it was with $3 million or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
And he's saying the right stuff. He told Jadeveon Clowney, "Hey, listen, man, is you coming or you coming? Like, because we got ball players over here." For the first time, the Cleveland Browns now have guys saying, "Hey, you want to get on board or not?" Because this train is moving, and I like his attitude. I like it was all about business. So. Kind of same type player. Maybe a little more upside as far as pass rush ability, but I think it's a little even deal.
Yeah, I like him a lot. His attitude was great. That was awesome when he said that too about Jadeveon. That was awesome. You're watching All Eyes on Cleveland with G. Bush, Garrett Bush of 92.3, the Fan, host of The Barbershop. We're going to do some projections now. We're going to do some over/under. Let me bring this up. Here's the show tonight. Some people are asking me why you show Odell down like that. I mean, he's not down. He's like praying. He's like I use the picture because he's projecting right there. He's projecting what he's about to do or whatever, right?
Yeah. He's what he's doing. He's waiting. He said, "Everybody that judged me, I pray for y'all because I'm gonna have to take it out on a couple defensive backs. Let me take a moment to pray real quick." Okay,
absolutely. There we go. Now we're good to go. All right, so we're going to do some over and under here. Now we use PFF's projections, Pro Football Focus's projections, so we got to shout them out. But let's start with Baker Mayfield. All right, I want to know now. Remember, we got the 17-game season, so that kind of changes numbers a little bit, right? So let me start with this. Let me get your over under 63% completion rate for Baker Mayfield in 2021.
Oh, that's over. That's over. That's easy. That's easy money. That's over. Second year in the system, he got all his receivers back, all the tight ends back. One of the best offensive lines. Still got the running game. That's over.
Okay. Over under 4,200 yards.
That's another over. I think he almost had 4,000 yards last year.
Right.
He had 4,000 yards last year, about that amount with Odell Beckham being gone for most of the year. Jarvis Landry, people forget, is coming off injury. They finally realized that Hollywood Higgins is a ball player. Y'all keep coming in. Hollywood Higgins, as I always see, he's always open. He's open right now. He just texted me. He said, G. Bush, I'm open if you want to throw it to me. But, you got Chubb, Hunt out of the backfield, screen game. Yeah, it's going to be over. In another game this year, that's the easy money. Over.
27 touchdowns, over or under?
Over. That's definitely an over. See, that's a he broke the rookie record with how many touchdowns?
26, 27, right there. Right there.
27, and he didn't even play the first 3 or 4 games. So
correct.
That's definitely an over. So I think, to me, in general, Baker Mayfield is going to have – I think he's going to have his best year statistically, but I also think that he'll break out. And people will go from thinking that the Cleveland Browns are a run-first team because they'll look at the stats and say, well, Baker can throw the ball too. So I think this year he has his best year as a pro.
Monty says you got the best background too. He's shouting that out too. Everybody loves it.
Hey, blessings, man. Blessings, King. I appreciate it, man. We just out here trying to elevate, man. But I appreciate it, though.
Absolutely. All right. And then interceptions, obviously a big one. I'm going to give you over under 14 and a hook, 14-5. Which way are you going?
That's under. I got him thrown. I think he'll throw about 10 interceptions next year. Listen, Baker is, but what? Here's the thing about Baker too. For the Cleveland Browns to get where they want to go, Baker Mayfield has to play like Baker Mayfield, right? He has to throw some balls in some coverage, right? Sometimes people freak out about that, but in general, you have to do that to let teams know. Don't try me. I'll throw it deep. There's anywhere on the field I can get it to. So sometimes it don't bother me if he throw a couple interceptions where he was trying to get it somewhere and he saw something. That's part of the game. That's part of making the offense explosive, and it's keeping defenses honest. So I don't mind that. I think he'll throw about 10 interceptions next year.
Yeah, I agree with you actually on all of those. The over, under. PFF does not agree though. So let's take a look here. Yeah, they disagree. They have him. Here's his statistics. They have him at a 62.3% completion rate. 4,300 yards. They agree with that. 28.8 touchdowns and 15.2 interceptions.
Yeah, I think the completion percentage is, they're right at the same. The 4,300 or 4,400 yards, cool.
That's good. Yeah.
28 touchdowns. I think 28 touchdowns is a little low. If you go back and you look at what the Browns were doing at the end of the season, the Browns were letting it go. The Browns were letting it rip. It wasn't like the first 8 games where they kind of had the leash on Baker, with the play action game and run first game. If you go back and look at the next couple games after that, in the last half of the season, they were throwing the ball a lot on first down. They were in shotgun a lot more. And I think the evolution is you'll see Baker Mayfield in shotgun a lot more this year as well.
Yeah, they came out in a couple games where, like, all week long, I was talking about this yesterday with Jake Burns, all week long we would hear about the running game, like especially starting with the Tennessee game especially. You'd hear about the run game. And then Stefanski just came out just gunslinging, throwing the ball all over the field. Because that's not what they expected, right? And he's like, you're going to put an extra guy in the box and we're going to smoke you. And that's kind of from there on, they kind of adapted that, they weren't afraid to go pass heavy if that's what you were going to show them on defense.
Definitely.
And
I think that's a credit to Stefanski because he understands that, people say, well, the Browns just have to run the ball until people stop them. And I'm like, listen, that's not the way the game works, bro.
Right.
That's not
Agreed.
it. You got to always keep teams on evolving throughout the season. And I think that's why the offense was so, productive last year.
Agreed. Now, so 28, 8, okay, I'll say around 30 I'd be happy with, right? I'm not going to nitpick there. The 15 interceptions I think is a little high, G. Bush, just because what he do in the second half of last season or whatever, he had 20 touchdowns and 2 interceptions.
Yeah, like he was trending in a way that, if you look at it, PFF even has him rated. I talked to John Costco on the show. PFF after, at the last part of the season, when you look at the last 7, 8, 9 games, they had him rated in the top 3 as far as quarterbacks are concerned in his quarterback rating. Only guys that played higher than him were Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers ended up winning the MVP, but other than that, when you look at the production, when you look at the completion percentage, and you look at his overall grade, he's in the top 5, in top 3 actually in the whole league. The way he's trending, so I don't see you getting Odell Beckham back. I don't see you getting better at positions and still having your running back in this offensive line. And he's throwing 15 interceptions. I just don't see where that happens at.
Agreed. I agree. All right, let's talk Nick Chubb. All right. Yardage, over under 1,200.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking right at 1,200 for me. If you go look at what he was doing last year, I think he'll end up with over.
Okay.
I think he'll have over that. He missed 3-4 games last year and
yes,
still had over 1,000. So I would, if he's healthy, I guarantee pretty much he'll get the 1,200.
I agree. Okay, and then rushing touchdowns. Let's go with 8 and a hook, 8.5 over under.
Oh man, I'll go with 8 touchdowns. I'll go over.
Okay.
With over. We might get. I would say push, but if I had to pick, I'd go with he'd have about 9.
It's a good call right there. You agree with PFF's numbers completely because they got him at 1,230, and you said about 1,200 push. That's their third most as far as projections go, and they got him at 9 touchdowns. Rushing.
Hey man,
touchdowns.
listen, I ain't even look. Hey, I had my eyes closed. I wasn't peeking. So
Nope. Yep. No way you could. We got it. That you nailed that one for sure. According to these, right? And they're not always right, but
yeah, they're not omniscient. But
Right.
They do a good job of predicting. But one of the
Absolutely.
things that you can never really overestimate is the fact that you got Kareem Hunt. And if you ask the over-under for Kareem Hunt, I would be almost pushing that Kareem Hunt ends up with 800, 900 yards almost. If you look at it, I got him, both those guys combined, I got him over 2,000 yards.
Over $2,000. Yep, I agree. Yeah, I mean that's kind of how the distribution, pardon me, works out. I guess that 17th game kind of throws a wrench in things. I really don't know how to evaluate that as far as, I guess you just add another, 200 yards on, I guess, and split that up, but whatever. At some point, do they just, I guess it's going to kind of depend on the contract situation, but at some point, is Nick Chubb just so good that Stefanski just starts riding him for long periods of time? Or is he always going to sprinkle in some, the Kareem Hunt?
I think they're always going to sprinkle in Kareem Hunt. And the reason I think they're always sprinkle him in is, to me, when the Browns are at their top, when they're at peak performance, you have a guy in Kareem Hunt who could easily be 1,000-yard back. Yes. They have 2 totally different running styles, and Kareem Hunt is just so dynamic out of the backfield. You always want Kareem Hunt to be in the backfield. Especially when you're in third down. The way he can catch the ball, the way he can just his hands out of the backfield. And one of the things that really complement you very well with these two running backs, and the reason why they run, is because they're always running hard and angry in the fourth quarter. If you're playing the Cleveland Browns and you're down and it's 7 minutes left in the game and the Browns still got the ball, it's bedtime. It's rockabye, baby. I mean, you got that offensive line led by Teller. You got those guys, Conklin on the right end. You don't get any breaks. Joe Bitonio, they're leaning on you. And now all of a sudden you think that you're wearing Chubb down. And now you got an angry Kareem Hunt running downhill on you, stiff-arming people. And it's just devastating. You might not even sniff the ball again. It's 5 minutes. People say it's the 5-minute drill. I call it the 7-minute drill. 7 minutes, and you know the run is coming. We dare you to stop it.
Yep, absolutely. And they did that multiple times last year, and it was so nice to see them salt away games like that. Finally, after years of coughing them up. But
my goodness,
that's so much a factor of them winning, and winning games is just being able to put it away like that. And they can do that for sure. All right, this is going to be a tricky one here. OBJ, right? Now, we saw the hype video. He looks good. He looks fast. I'm expecting a big year, his best year as a Brown from OBJ, personally. Mm-hmm. That's what I expect. I'm going to give you over under 1,000 yards.
I think OBJ ends up with about 1,100 yards.
Okay.
About 1,100. Which is not bad. You say if he hits 1,100, I mean, he had 1,000 his first or his major year, not last year, but the year before that. He had 1,070 or something like that. So I think he ends up with 1,100 yards coming into the season.
All right. So what about Jarvis then? Over under 1,000.
Jarvis, I think, this is a thing. I mean, Jarvis and Odell, the year before when they played their first year together, they both had 1,000 yards. So even that was in Freddie Kitchens' playbook. So, they both had 1,000 yards. Jarvis Landry was the number one receiver last year after OBJ got hurt. I definitely think Jarvis Landry gets 1,000 yards. I mean, I think he just wakes up and gets 1,000 yards. That's just what he does.
Okay. Very good. Let's go with touchdown catches. OBJ over under 5.5 passing touchdowns.
5.5. I'll go over.
Five and a hook.
I'll go over. I think he ends up with somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 touchdowns. I think he gets about 7 touchdowns. He won't get to 10. He won't get to 9. I think he'll be somewhere around 7. If you just go back and look what he was doing before last year, I mean, he had 4 touchdowns within the first, remotely few games. If you spread that out and amortize that over the length of the season, he ends up with somewhere around, 8, 9, touchdowns. So I think he can come back and get that.
Okay. Jarvis Landry, over under 4.5 touchdowns.
I think he gets over 4 touchdowns. I think Jarvis does a lot of his work, and you got to think about it like this. Both of those guys are really great in short areas. So you look at the way they run routes in confined spaces, and both of those are really good advantages for receivers who want to get touchdowns.
So here's what we got from PFF. 1,030 yards for Odell Beckham, OBJ, and you nailed it with the touchdown, 6.5 touchdowns, okay? Mm-hmm. And they got Landry over 1,002, but just barely 1,003.6 yards and 5.8 touchdowns.
So hey, we worked it. Close gets it done here.
You're killing it.
We was 3 for 3. Shout out to PFF for thinking the same way I do. You're smart.
Absolutely. You are 100% in stride with PFF projections right now. If you go up to the top here, I wanted to see who they got having like the biggest receiving. They got Tyreek Hill up there, right? Most yards, most touchdowns. So
Devontae Adams is he's a monster. To me, if you ask me, overall, who's the best receiver in the game? He may not have elite speed, but for me, Devontae Adams to me is probably the best receiver. If you just go watch him and his varied releases off the ball, it's just crazy. It's almost impossible getting hands on him in a bumper run situation. He can run every route on the route tree. He has tremendous hands, great sideline awareness, and he has, good enough speed to, threaten you deep, but still make sure he can come back and make those catches and change of direction underneath where you need to run those routes. I think Devontae Adams, for me, is the best receiver in football right now.
It's hard to argue with that. I agree in a lot of your points there. Let me ask you this. They got Julio Jones here, and he's the topic of conversation right now. Obviously, he wants traded and all that stuff. They got him down for 1,200 yards and 6 touchdowns. Can he still do that?
Here's when you look at it. It's all with Julio. It's all about injuries, right?
Yeah.
If you're a big guy, big guys at receivers do not fare well as they tend to get older. Even look at you can still have your smaller guys that, if Tyreek Hill loses 3 or 4 steps, right? Yeah. Well, that's not too bad. You can be Antoine Randall. Like, bro, you could just be in the slot and just work on your route running, and you still can get open. Like, that's, you're a quick guy. You can work on changing direction. But when you're a straight line physical receiver, Julio Jones goes from running 4.4 and he can run by you to now all of a sudden you're running like a tight end a little bit. Separation, working. Now he can still be a red zone target. He can still go up and get the ball. He still use that big frame to box people out. But if you're losing, lateral quickness, you're losing the mobility inside, the ability to switch and change your hips and direction. That's where it's hurt the most in terms of big receivers. If Julio stays healthy, I totally think he can get 1,200 yards. You got to think about it. 1,200 yards ain't created the same no more, right? Because we got another game. It's 17 games now, so 1,200 yards is more like a 1,000-yard season a little bit, right? We'll start to catch on to that a little later in terms of that.
You're right. I think that 1,200 rushing and passing will kind of be like the new 1,000 threshold, right? If moving forward with 17 games, they really, in my opinion, they need to get this thing to an even number as quickly as possible.
You're messing the math up. You're messing the math up right now.
Screwing me up here with 17. Let's get it to 18, and then whatever, and to give them an extra bye. Let's call it 20 weeks. Let's just do that.
I've been trying to get rid of You need 2 preseason games.
2 preseason games and 8 playoff teams on each side. Why we got 7? We got 7?
Well, here's the thing too. When you look at it, are you going to start giving back the 2 buys? You're going to get the first 2 teams get 2 buys. The first.
I don't think they should get a bye. What other sport do teams get a bye in the first round in?
I think. Well, here's the thing. I think it makes it so much more competitive, and it stops people from saying, "All right, well, I'm not going to play my guys. If I'm going to make the playoffs, and I know I'm going to have home field." If you got that first pick, it makes people literally say, "Yo, that is such a big factor." Because here's the thing. Think about the AFC. The Browns are Browns, in most people's thoughts, the Browns, Bills, Ravens are the same on an equal playing field, right?
Yes.
Then you got the Chiefs, right? Then you go down and you got teams like the Dolphins and the Colts that are kind of in that middle round. Dolphins, Colts, the Raiders are in that mix as well of guys that are in the Steelers, right? So there's another group. But here's the thing: if you got 8 teams and you got you playing the 8th team in the AFC, that's not a walk in the park. We all agree that the Colts, the Steelers, the Raiders, the Dolphins, those teams have the capabilities of beating certain teams. They could beat. It's not out of the picture. It's not likely that they would, Kansas City would lose. But say if Baltimore ends up with the first pick or first seed, it's not out of the question that they can lose that game. That's
no
crazy.
question. Yeah, I guess my thing is like in the playoffs, I feel like a team should have to win the same amount of games to win a Super Bowl than the other team. Like that bye week throws me off. I'm just not down with it.
He's about you
Not,
messed my viewing pleasure up, bro.
all right. Let's do tight ends real quickly. So Austin Hooper, over under 500 yards.
Oh, he'll have over 500 yards. He'll do that. He'll do that.
Over under 3.5 touchdown catches.
He'll get that. He'll get that.
All right. So let's see what PFF's got him at here. I threw Njoku's numbers on here too, what they got for him. But they got him at 518, so you nailed that again, and 4.5 touchdowns. So you're crushing this.
There you go, man.
Yeah. And then they got Njoku with 26 catches, 291 yardage, and 2.7 touchdowns. I think that Njoku, in his newfound acceptance of Cleveland, may have a bigger year than that.
Oh, listen, this is where they're wrong. David Njoku, if you look at it during the season and you look at it down the back stretch, David Njoku was the best tight end they had on their roster. Mm-hmm. I mean, go back and watch it. Go watch those games at the end of the season. He was their best blocker. He was their best vertical threat. He wasn't dropping the ball like he was before. David Njoku at 2.7 touchdowns. Come on, that's ridiculous. Like, he's at tight end, their best red zone target in terms of what he can do. 291 is way too low. I think when you see Njoku, you're going to see a lot less of Bryant this year, unless Hooper is like fell off. I think that David Njoku will be more. As the season goes on, you'll start to see him a lot more, and especially when it comes to throwing downs.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that catch he had in the Kansas City game where he all out just dove for it, like, you don't see tight ends make catches like that. Like, that was freakish, right? And he held on to it. That was amazing.
He had a great catch against the New York Jets as well, too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm hoping for big things from him this year, like a breakout type season, right? Because he's going to be getting some extra guaranteed money on that 5th-year option and everything, and he seems to be happy now, so let's get him in the mix, right?
Right.
All right, so this is PFF's projected Browns starting lineups, right? So the only one that really have questions that I'm going to question you and get your opinion on here is because they put them in the nickel on defense, right? So they have 2 linebackers on the field. What 2 linebackers would you put on the field if you had to pick their starting lineup on defense right now?
2 linebackers, Walker, and if they're in base, Taki, I think, will play. I think he'll fight for time with Phillips, but JOK, I would think will play most of your nickel. Like, if it's passing downs, he's going to play. Taki will play 1 to 2 downs, and it'll get to a point by the end of the year. I think they'll see whether or not where he's going to be at. I think JOK will be a starter. I don't know if he'll be playing on some of your big downs, but then again, here's the thing: still got Smith. They still got Smith.
Yes,
they still got him. I think your Taki in base and Walker will be playing your linebackers, but JOK will eventually get that position.
Okay, I like that thought process. Now, at corner opposite Denzel, who do you think starts the season at corner out there?
That's another hot tub time machine. It's whether or not who. Here's the thing. I have 3 herniated discs in my neck today. Like, they're not operable. I've already had neck surgery once. I know about nerve damage. I know about, like, I don't have to tackle nobody. People be like, I don't even move furniture no more. I don't do none of that. I be getting movers. Like, nah, I can't do that. Like, I don't move nothing. And I know how it is to be like, wow, you lose feeling in your arm. You're like, wow, this is kind of crazy. I don't know if this is coming back. and Greedy Williams has to tackle people. Like, it's not like he can play two-hand touch below the waist. That's a situation where you got nerve damage. So I don't know how many days he's going to be able to practice in a row. I don't know how many maintenance days he's going to get. I don't know any of that. Here's what I do know. I know younger players got a lot of energy. I know younger players in the first round, they like them for a reason in the first round, and they get a number one pick in the first round for a reason. And you don't have any injuries. So if Newsome is out there more than Greedy Williams, he'll start. Yeah. But let me give you this. If Greedy Williams shows that he is able to stay out there and he's able to be healthy, I think Greedy Williams has an experience level over Newsome. I think he played at a top program. He's had a year to watch film. He knows what it is, and I think his feet are to the fire a little bit. It all depends on his ability to stay on the field. I think that's immediately what it comes down to. If I had something to pick, I would probably say Newsome plays over Greedy Williams because I don't think Greedy Williams will be every day out there in the summer type guy. But I think he'll get a lot of playing time.
I agree. And so does Pro Football Focus. So here's their projected starting lineups. As I said, they got him in nickel here. So obviously you got Newsome, Hill. They got Ronnie Harrison and John Johnson III. So, I mean, that's again, it was interesting. Did you listen to the Delpit presser yesterday?
Yeah, he said, "Yo, I'm not a rookie." He's like, "I've been watching."
He's film. Like, "Yeah, I'm a second year."
I'm a second year guy. And I've talked to Mary Kay Cabot and I've talked to Daryl Ryder, and they seem to think that if Grant Delpit is, and we've seen his workout video where he's backpedaling and turning and running and all that good stuff. If Grant Delpit is starting, if Grant Delpit is good to go, they project him to start. And they covered it, the Browns for whatever that is, but they're under the thought process that if he's ready to go, he's going to be one of the safeties with John Johnson III.
So you think he starts it free in front of Ronnie?
If he's healthy, yes. I just think Grant Delpit is a more dynamic player. Grant Delpit was at one point in time seen as a top 5 pick. He's had injuries. He had an ankle injury his junior year that really cost him some of his draft stock. He was injured last year as a rookie, but you have to look at it. If he's there, he's going to start. Now, Ronnie Harrison, to me, in this nickel package looks a little different. Ronnie Harrison, to me, will probably be paying linebacker. So if you think about it, you look at linebacker right now. If you look at Jacob Phillips and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, if you look at that, you say, all right, well, we want to get more defenders. We want to get more defensive backs out here. We're going to put Ronnie Harrison at that linebacker position for Jacob Phillips, still keep JOK out there. And now what you have is in your sub packages, now you have a defensive back that's still able to come up and play the run and still be a hitter. You still have another hybrid guy in JOK that's out there, and you still have your best defensive backs. So
that's the death lineup right there.
Yeah, that's
right?
the small ball. So, that's our version of the Golden State death lineup.
Yeah, that's the death lineup. When you put Ronnie up in the box and you put JOK as your only linebacker, and then you have John Johnson III and Grant Delpit, Troy Hill, Greg Newsome, Denzel Ward. You got all those guys on the field. That's your death lineup. The problem is a good running team might be able to just run right over you, maybe, right? Like, you're not going to do that against Tennessee, right? So, Derrick Henry.
I don't think you run this, this is a 3rd and 8 package. This is third and long against good teams, right? This is the lineup that you would run when you got Lamar Jackson, it's 3rd and 7. Because here's the thing, Lamar Jackson is liable to run. 3rd and 7, I don't believe you're throwing the ball 10 yards. I think you're going to pull the screens down and you'll take off. So this is your death lineup. But let me give you this. Also, that level of speed that you are able to put there, because
Whew.
you still got Myles Garrett on the end, Jadeveon Clowney on end. You can even put Dak McKinley somewhere up there in that depth lineup. And guess what? You're not running away from nobody on that field. You're just not.
Yeah, man. You put the movement. Even in that death lineup, you might move Clowney to the inside and bring in McKinley, and then you're just super fast, right?
Yeah,
Everywhere.
it's a video game lineup.
Yeah.
Like you said, you are a little vulnerable against the run, but one thing about Clowney is he's one of the best guys in the league as far as getting off blocks and playing the run. So you do have some upgrades at defensive end that's able to get off blocks and make plays.
We know that Joe Woods wants to run this dime package with the three safeties on the field, right? He talked about it, that they ran it 17 downs last year, and he wants to run it like 70, right? So, like, we know he wants to do that. So we know that with Delpit's healthy, they can go Harrison, Delpit, Johnson, and deploy those guys on the field. The question is, like, a lot of people, I think, want to put JOK in that third safety. You know what I mean? Like, they want to put him in that area. And I guess you could do that in, like, a heavier version of that dime package. And then, because I think the Browns are really high on Jacob Phillips still.
Yeah, I think he's a third round pick guy. I think he's another one. The Browns have become LSU North.
He's just a speed. He's just speed, and he's a sure tackler,
He's another guy that he hasn't shown the ability to stay healthy at this point.
Exactly.
I think that's hurt him a little bit. To me, JOK is not a deep third safety. He's not a guy. So what you can do is, and the idea is this: when you watch the Super Bowl, JOK and Ronnie Harrison playing linebacker does one thing for you. It basically shuts down the tight ends and running back stuff. Usually when you're playing nickel, you got guys like Travis Kelce who victimize people over the middle because you can't cover them with a linebacker. What that does, it gives you an opportunity to say, all right, well, if you want to swing your linebackers or you want to swing your backs out of the backfield, we got that covered because we have safeties covering him. When you want to run down the seam, we have guys that can run with you down the seam. And so you're not giving up that much in terms of, what you're giving up in the run support game, but you can shut down a lot of that underneath stuff where it's option routes and you're throwing the ball short of the sticks and you're hoping guys can break a few tackles and get the first down. That's where JOK and Harrison will help you out during that. And even Jacob Phillips is a good back and he's a good linebacker. I just think that when you got Grant Delpit, he has way better range. It's not even questionable who's better in coverage when it comes to that. So I think he's more in terms of that where he needs to be at.
Good shit. Very good stuff from you, G. Bush. You are the man. Knocked that out of the park. We're talking about that defense there. That defense will be fun. They can do so many different things, so many different ways. Like you mentioned Walker. I like what he brings from a leadership standpoint, and he's a film room buff. He'll get in there and be able to teach some of those guys. You don't see the kind of send-offs that you saw from the guys in Indy without a guy that's like that. You know what I mean? Like, those were some heartfelt, like, this dude affected me as a man and a player, and that's the kind of guy you want in your locker room. So I'm happy to have him there, and I think he can play that middle linebacker role well as well. And Taki's there to play the run. He can do that. But he has a place on the team because against a run-heavy team, you can put him out there in your base, right?
Definitely a special teams guy. Taki is on all those units, kickoff, return, punt units. So he's one of those guys that is – Phillips is on those units as well too. So he's really a special team guy as well. So that's why he's so valuable, and that's why you look at it and just say, okay, well, he's definitely going to be a guy that's going to get minutes. And you always got to take in this consideration – there's going to be an injury that happens to one of your starters. We just don't know who it is. And it just is what it is. Like you can't injuries. People say we just need to stay healthy. Staying healthy is not a thing in the league. Like people say it. The last time you were healthy, midget league football, Pop Warner.
Right.
The youth leagues. That's when you were healthy. Anything past that, you get to junior high, everybody's day to day.
It's a war of attrition for sure. All right. You're watching All Eyes on Cleveland. Special guest Garrett Bush of 92.3 The Fan is with us. We're gonna finish it off with this right here, okay? We're gonna go down real quick down some extension talk, and I want to get your thoughts on this stuff. We're pushing up against an hour. I didn't mean to keep you this long. I'm sorry, but
it's all good. We just a couple dudes talking ball, man. It's all
time
good.
flies when we're talking. Me and you get together. This happens. This is what happens. So, all right, sir. So let's hash this out. Yesterday, the NFL comes out and says salary cap ceiling of 208.2. That's a $25 million bump. Now, I think with the TV money, they had to put a ceiling on it because it was going to go higher with the calculations. Like, they want to make sure that it only goes 25 and then maybe 20 the next year. Like, it's going up. Like, the cap is going to go through the roof in the next 2 years, which helps the Browns because they got some guys to sign here. Let's start with Nick Chubb. Extension. This is his final year of his deal. How do you want to handle this with Nick Chubb?
There's a couple ways you can look at it. The first thing I always do is I take a look at when I'm talking about these extensions, and I've been talking about it for 2 years now. With Nick Chubb, you got to look at it like this. Nick Chubb is a guy that I think the Browns want to take care of because to me, he's the example of what they want in a player. He's if you say, what do the Browns want? They want somebody smart, hardworking, and a person that is versatile. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He comes back. He runs the ball. He scores touchdowns and turns around, celebrates with his team. Nick Chubb is a dude that everybody's like, yo, I'd probably let you date my sister. He's just a solid. He's the epitome of. He's the epitome of what everybody in the league wants, like as a back. I go back and look at the top running backs and tell what they're getting per year, and we just look at the total guarantees. So Christian McCaffrey signs his deal; he's getting $30 million guaranteed. Alvin Kamara, has a little bit more total value at a $75 million deal, but he's only guaranteed the $17.8 million. Per average on a year, McCaffrey's getting 16. Alvin Kamara is at 15. Ezekiel Elliott is at 15 million per year. Zeke's deal is about 28 million. And then you get down to where we can start comparing guys that I think he's going to want to be somewhere in this mix. Joe Mixon is making $10 million a year. You got Aaron Jones, who just signed a deal at $13 million. And then you got Derrick Henry, who is total guarantee for his deal is $25 million. But on average, he's around 12 and a half a year. So I think Nick Chubb is going to want to be in that Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott echelon, which is somewhere between 12 and 15 million per year.
Dude, I mean, this is what I've been saying. You nailed it, right? So the Aaron Jones deal is kind of garbage, right? Like they signed him to that deal, but it only has $13 million guaranteed money on it, straight up front. Like 1 year, you might as well have signed him to a franchise tag with a bunch of void years on the end.
Yeah, it don't make no difference. It's crazy.
Right. So, and the franchise tag is at a point right now. I guess the transition tag is less. It's like 8 or 9 million. Mm-hmm. But the franchise tag is around 12. Over 2 years, 3 years, it's going to be around $12-13 million a year, which is where the contracts are at. So why not give them the Derrick Henry deal for 4 for $48, right? just like Henry got 4 for 48 with 24 or 25 million guaranteed. You have an out after 2 years. You're telling me we don't want 2 more years in Nick Chubb? I'm signing up for that now, and it gives him the little bit of security that he wants. He gets that 1 year extra year versus signing the franchise tag. I would go that route now. I would sign up for that today.
And I think Nick Chubb is only 25, right?
Yeah.
I think he just turned. I think he's 25 years old. That puts you roughly when you got to go back to the table and negotiate again.
Like 28.
28, 29, and that's where running backs seem to hit a ceiling. So
yes,
I think that's where they put him at, and I think he would. I think he'd do that deal. I think he would if he was somewhere in that range, of averaging 12.5, 13 a year.
yes.
I think he signs it and he's good to go.
I agree. I mean, they could play it hardball with him, no doubt. They could transition tag him, and
that's
yeah,
bad.
or franchise tag him. But I don't think you want the headache of what that does with a player and the relations. Because some people forget, G. Bush. They always say, like I hear people say all the time, Nick Chubb is such a nice guy. He'll give a hometown discount. He'll sign whatever deal. No, dude, you're not negotiating with Nick Chubb. You're negotiating with his agent, first of all. Like, it's not, like, he's not going to be sitting there at the table like, oh, yeah, nice, good old nice guy Nick Chubb. You're going to be talking with the agent who's a shark, and he's going to try to get every dollar he can for him.
And you're not only negotiating with Nick Chubb, you're negotiating with future people. You're negotiating with future agents, future guys. So you don't want something where it's like the Cleveland Browns don't take care of their people, because if there's anybody that should be taken care of, I mean, Nick Chubb is a second-round pick. I mean, he comes in and he's everything that you want to represent. You want to reward that behavior, right? So
no question.
Let's take care
no question. Yeah, I agree completely, and I don't think you're not over investing. You're signing up for 2 more years, and then you have an out if you need it. And for me, he's done enough for that, and he's shown at least up to this point, and this is when you would ideally sign the deal, maybe during camp or whatever. But like he's done everything you can ask of a guy to step into an organization, and you absolutely you nailed it when you said you have to reward that. All right, Baker Mayfield extension. Thoughts on when this happens and how it happens, maybe?
I think it happens after the year,
Yeah.
and I think it happens after the year because that's how big of a deal it is. Like, there's the Browns, from a standpoint, don't have anything to gain by negotiating now. It just doesn't, it doesn't mean anything. Like, if you look at it, if Baker Mayfield plays well, he's pretty much going to get a crazy deal, and they already kind of know where that deal kind of lays. If you look at the top contracts, right? You look at the average per year for Ryan Tannehill, he has 29.5. You look at Matt Ryan at $30 million a year. Carson Wentz is at $32 million a year. Kirk Cousins, 33. And then you start to give guys like Aaron Rodgers at 33.5, but Rodgers tends to give money back because he wants people to continue to come and play for his team and give him a deal. Same with Tom Brady. Who gives away, he's never signed for over $40 million because he knows how restricted that is to building a roster. But here's where it gets you. So you look at the average per year and you start to say, Baker Mayfield is targeting this region. The $33.5 million for Jared Goff. Baker Mayfield, if you're his agent, you say this, Russell Wilson is at $35 million. They gave Dak Prescott 40. Deshaun Watson is $39 million. And then, of course, Patrick Mahomes is at $45 million. I think you start the conversation if you're Baker Mayfield. You say, Jared Goff, sorry, bro. I'm a number 1 pick. I'm actually better than you. I need to be somewhere about $36 million because I'm younger than Russell Wilson. I got less hardware, but I'm younger. I'm in the prime of my career. He's making 35. We need to talk about 36 or 37, and it kind of puts me 4th in the league behind Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, and Patrick Mahomes.
I agree. I even probably said, see, I think you have to account for Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. So these three guys are all going to the table at the same time, basically, right? Either
Mhm.
this year or after this year. For the Browns, it doesn't make sense to go to the table now, and it doesn't make sense for Baker to go to the table now. There's more money there next year, and the Browns probably want to see more data points before they sign him to the contract. Just because they can, right? It doesn't behoove them to do either side to come to the table now. So I think you're right. It happens next year. I think you're real close on the figure. I wouldn't be surprised if it got close to 40
No,
if he
I wouldn't
plays
either.
well this year.
Because
So
you brought up something brilliant. You got to look at it. Josh Allen is, in my opinion, going to get the biggest deal because they're looking at it.
yes,
They don't have the level of talent as far as name brand recognition, as far as guys coming up to free agency. They can afford to overspend on,
yeah,
Allen, right? The only other person they're paying is Diggs, right?
yep,
You can afford to do that. I don't think so much for Baltimore. Baltimore is always in a cap restraints. For some reason, they just don't have the cap space like that. I think Lamar Jackson gets in that 30 something range. So it behooves Baker to hold on, chill out, see what the market says. And then you can say, all right, well, Josh Allen, you set the market. We'll figure out where we go from there.
yeah. Because I think Allen gets above 40 or at 40 or just above. So I think it's very possible that, like you said, 36, 37. I'm thinking, between there and 40 is where Baker lands, somewhere in there.
And it's guaranteed. And here's the thing: we got to understand something. If there's no such thing as like waffling over a couple million here or there, guys are really looking at this. We got somebody who says Lamar Jackson is getting at least 45. I don't think they can pay him. You can't pay him $45 million.
I don't think they can either. And
They don't have the.
Mahomes is at 45. So wait a minute now. He can do everything Lamar can and throw it out of the stadium. So I'm not really sure where.
If
I don't
if
know.
if you kind of look at it and you look at the cap space availability, and you go down the list, the cap space available, the Ravens have about $9 million in cap space. The effective cap space is about $5 million, right? So between now and a couple years from now, they're going to have to go up a substantial amount of millions to give him 45 million. That's not even to state whether or not he's worth 45 million. We'll just continue to put that there.
Yeah, I would say that Willie. I guess Willie, your comment makes some sense to a little bit, because not that he would get 45, but I get kind of what you're saying in that I think that Josh Allen and him and Baker are tied to each other in what they get. So I don't know if Baltimore came to him with an offer of like 33, like you said, if he would play ball with that. He may want what Josh Allen gets. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and because he has an MVP too. I mean, let's not forget he has an MVP under his belt. So that's the thing too.
Well, Mahomes is getting 45,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Mahomes getting 45. Dak Prescott is at 40. Now, here's the thing. Josh Allen is definitely better than Dak Prescott. And I could see them saying, I want $43 million or $42 million because I want to be higher than Dak Prescott. But then you have to say, if it's the Browns, Josh Allen got 43. Now you have to say, all right, well, you're going to give Baker over 40 because now you saying that Deshaun Watson is making 39. So now it's like, okay, and at what point, if you're Baker Mayfield, do you take a deal? And we still ain't even talked about Denzel Ward. We ain't still talking about Teller, who's one of the best guards,
Yeah.
rated the highest position or the highest grade as far as the offensive lineman. Now, he only did it 1 year, but you still have Chubb. You still got Teller. You still got Denzel Ward that you want to sign. Do you want to go and break the bank, or do you want to keep your team together to make a run?
Yeah, I mean, is that, in your opinion, is that something Baker will take into account, or is he just going to try to max out?
I would, if I was Baker Mayfield, and I think that I'm going. See, Baker Mayfield has something that a lot of people don't get. Baker Mayfield actually has the ability to earn money in endorsements. he's already one of the highest endorsed guys in the game as far as his visibility. If you want to look at commercials, Lamar Jackson is the MVP. No commercials. Josh Allen, no commercials. The faces of the league, your Brady's, your Aaron Rodgers, and a guy like Baker Mayfield. He got commercials. He was on TV every week. Got Hulu. He got the television commercials. He got everything. So you got to think about it. If I was him, I'd always think about how can I maximize and keep my window open, because at the end of the day, me keeping my window open and a chance to win championships in football is the main goal. It's the main goal.
Willie, again, here with they gave Dak 40. Of course, Lamar is getting more than that. Lamar's resume blows Allen and Baker out of the water. I don't think it blows either guy out of the water, but I think that the guy that's going to get the most out of those three is Josh Allen, no question.
I just think the Browns. Here's the thing: it's not about what they owe, right, or what they want to give him. It's about what do you have the ability to do.
Right.
The Baltimore Ravens just don't have the level of cap space as these other teams do. Like, the Buffalo Bills can give Josh Allen, he said, I want to be the second highest paid player, they could do it and it wouldn't be a problem, right? The Browns have a lot of cap space, believe it or not. They can offer him that level of money too. It's not about if Lamar Jackson is worth the money. I mean, his resume is better than those other two guys. But it's about whether or not they can afford to give him that type of money at that point when he's due, which is coming up in this year.
I question with Lamar Jackson his longevity of his style of play, the running, and he's not as good of a thrower as either other guy. I mean, he can't pass the ball like Allen, and Allen is very mobile. Is just as mobile. It may not as just as mobile. Obviously, Lamar Jackson is a freak, but he can scoot. He takes advantage of running the football. I think Allen. I don't know. Yes, he has that MVP on his resume, which I'm certainly boosts it. But I just think when you're breaking down those three quarterbacks, there's some questions about his ability to throw the football down the field.
Well, see, here's the thing. I think the guy Monte Perez says Tom Brady goes to Super Bowls almost every year, and this contract is never detrimental to the team. I think that's a big thing. Tom Brady realized that there's never been a quarterback that has made over $40 million that has won a Super Bowl in the new era, and that's because he realized how restrictive that is in terms of winning Super Bowls. You guys had, there's a lot of different things that have to happen to make a quarterback very good. Offensive line, running game, receivers and weapons and all these good things. So Tom Brady says, listen, I'll take a little less if you go out and get Gronk. I'll take a little less if you're going to go out here and get Leonard Fournette to help me out. I'll take a little less. You're going to bring Antonio Brown in? Yeah, Tom Brady got a doggone good roster. And they pay a lot of other people. Goodwin is another guy. So I think that's one of the things you got to take in consideration too.
Good stuff from the chat here tonight. I appreciate your input on all that stuff. Willie, I get your point that they may have been injured more than Lamar Jackson. I'm just saying over a period of time, that style of play, designed runs for Lamar Jackson on a smaller frame eventually could take its toll. I'm not saying that it will, just a thought. Good conversation there on all of that, and thank you for kicking in. You're watching All Eyes on Cleveland with the one and only G. Bush. Follow him on Twitter at GBush91, host of The Barbershop at 92.3 The Fan. Denzel Ward, what do you want to do with Denzel?
This is the tough one. The three main positions on the field that you're going to break the bank for. If you want to be defensive end, premium position, you got to rush the passer. Quarterbacks, of course, that's the highest paid, most important position. But then now, locking down those receivers and locking down, stopping quarterbacks, you have to have pass rush, and you got to have guys in the back end that can hold up. And corner is a premium position at one of the top flight positions as far as the monetary values go. So if you look at the Cleveland Browns and the way they're situated, they did a good job in getting. They did a good job in capitalizing on the most important positions. We just talked about Baker Mayfield, who some people can say almost gets $40 million a year. We haven't even talked about the Myles Garrett deal that they gave Myles Garrett, making him the highest paid defensive player for a while, defensive end for a while, until I think Joey Bosa got
for a minute,
for a second. Then they gave
Yeah.
him a deal. So he's paid $25 million, I think. So now you got to take a look and say Denzel Ward is a first round draft pick coming from that position, and you take a look at who's the top of the food chain. You look at the two guys at the top of the food chain. You look at almost averaging $20 million a year is Jalen Ramsey. He's a guy who is getting $43 million guaranteed. He has a $100 million deal. Now, granted, we're only looking at the guaranteed money. He's 27. Next guy up, Marlon Humphrey. He has a $97 million deal. But you look at it. Look at his total. Look at his guaranteed money. $75 million in total guarantees. 19 and a half a year, right underneath Jalen Ramsey. And so you look at those guys, and he's 25. So then you go down and you continuously look and you say, okay, well, who's next up? You got Darius Slade, Tre'Davious White is right underneath that. They're getting on average a year about 16.5, 16.6 a year. And then you got two Miami Dolphins guys that are old, Xavier Howard, Byron Jones. Those guys are also getting 16.5 and 15 million a year. So you look at those guys and you say, okay, well, let's target where we can get at with Denzel Ward. Right now, Denzel Ward is 24 years old. He'll be 25 coming up. First round draft pick. He already had his first big deal. But at 24, you got to ask yourself, is he better than these guys above him? Janoris Jenkins, Patrick Peterson, Kenny Moore, Jeff Okudah, who's a rookie, first round pick, but got that guaranteed money. Michael Davis, Chris Harris Jr., Kyle Fuller, Kendall Fuller, Ronald Darby, Bradley Roby, Joe Hayden is believe it or not making $11 million a year. You got Stephon Gilmore, $13 million a year. And Dory Jackson just signed for $13 million a year. So now you got to keep looking up, and you're going up and going up, and you say, if you're Denzel Ward, I'm better than Darius Slade. What you talking about? He's getting 16.6. I want $17 million. $17 million guaranteed for him is a lot of money. He could say I'm better than Tre'Davious White for playing for the Bills. He's getting now. These guys got total contracts $69 million. I think Denzel Ward fancies himself as a guy who's a premium player, who he would say, I'm in terms of my skill set, in terms of my age, I think I'm right under Marlon Humphrey. And you know what he got, 19.5. I'll take 18, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah, I'm worried about that too. I mean, seriously, you nailed it. You laid that out perfectly. But I'm worried that he's going to want up, close to $20 million a year. Here's my thing with the Browns, right? It's not going to happen this year. It's going to happen next year if it happens, right?
Yeah.
I want to see him play 14 games healthy this year before I even think about that.
Facts. And he has a lot of soft tissue injuries. It's things like hamstrings. I mean, he missed the whole camp when him and Greedy Williams both missed the whole camp when Freddie Kitchens was here with the hamstring injury. He's a slighter frame. He throws his body around a lot. He's not very healthy when it comes to certain things. And, some people would argue, I want to see more production. I want to see more interceptions. I want to see big playability. I know, listen, I watch Marlon Humphrey play the Ravens twice a year. I know what he does. He's physical, and he can cover, and he goes downfield. Jalen Ramsey, physical, line up with any receiver you want him to, and they play the game, and they're out there. If I'm going to give Denzel 18, he got to have 5 interceptions this year, and I want to see him play 14 games like you do. 5 picks, 14 games, and be locked down where it's just apparent that he's the best corner on the field, and you're not getting no touches today. That's what I need to see to get to 18 money. 18 is a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. You know, you make a great point about that. It's just, here's my thing, G. Bush, is I've seen those guys play too, and I've seen Denzel when he's playing his best, and when he's playing his best, I think he is as good as a lot of those guys in coverage. Not so much the physical element, but in coverage. And really, ultimately, that's what we're asking him to do. You know, I would do 15, 16, 17, you know, I don't know. But you get up there towards 20, you're asking a lot. If you're going to ask for 20 or 18 or 19, then you got to be showing me that you're healthy for 14 games this year and you're going to do it on a more consistent basis.
And let me throw this out here, and a lot of people don't take this into consideration. Let me throw this out there for you. Look at the number of people you have that are on prove me deals. Now, Malik Jackson is a 1-year deal. Walker is, you know, those are 1-year guys, unless they come out and have career years. Even if they have Pro Bowl years, I don't think the Browns are thinking about, oh, we got to sign these guys up to a long-term deal. But here's the thing you do have to take in consideration. If either Ted McKinley or Jadeveon Clowney have monster years. If Clowney has his best year and he comes in and says he's never had over 9 sacks in a year, if he comes out, plays every single game, and they look like they're the next coming of the dynamic duo with him and Myles Garrett, and he has 14, 15 sacks and Myles Garrett has 19 sacks or something crazy, he's on a 1-year deal. You gotta ask yourself. Now it's like, all right, well, I got Denzel Ward and I got these two freaks of nature up front. I gotta at least think that I might want to sign him. If David Njoku comes out and says, "Hey, I got 8 or 9 touchdowns and I'm around 900 yards. I'm a first-round pick," and he looks like he's a monster, it's now not a foregone conclusion that you're jettisoning David Njoku, and it's his last year here at Cleveland. You got to think about these other guys that could possibly pop up, have great years, and you're in a situation with Teller where he has a Pro Bowl year, he looks like one of the best linemen in the game, and now you have to reconsider how much we're going to pay him.
Great thought, because all of a sudden he becomes your long-term solution that you've been looking for opposite Myles Garrett if he has a year like that, and how much is that worth, right? So a lot. So, yeah, I mean, Denzel is a question. I think a lot depends on his performance this year, and, you know, I would like cornerbacks are at such a premium that if he does show out, I'm cool with it, right? Like,
right. If he was going to be dominant, I'll take it.
Yeah, they're hard to find. It's hard to find guys like Denzel, right? Like, it's hard to find guys like him. So, you know, show me that you can play 14 games healthy, just make some big plays in crunch time, and I'm cool with it. And I'll replace Wyatt Teller instead, I guess. I don't know.
Man, that good gracious.
Yeah, that's the next question is Wyatt Teller. What do you want to do with him?
Well, let's take a look at it. So let's get in the hot tub time machine and go down and figure out what Wyatt Teller is making. Wyatt Teller is actually making he's making like Ford F-150 money. Wyatt Teller is actually making like $254,000 a year, like guaranteed money. His contract is literally $678,000. He just made himself the highest rated lineman in the game according to Pro Football Focus. I think it's a 92.9 or something stupid. So you take a look at what he's doing at 27. I think you can get away a little bit cheaper here because he is 27. And you could say we're going to give you a long-term deal that puts you up to give him a 4-year deal and, you know, go ahead and give him, you know, maybe $10, $11 million a year. And he may take that because right now you don't expect a guy who comes out of nowhere at 27, you know, in a couple of years he's going to be 30. You can still get them together. If you look at the guy, and he plays a position that traditionally does not make a bunch of money as a guard. So you're looking at, you know, the highest paid guards in the game. You got guys like Brandon Sharif, and he's making $18 million a year. I don't know how that's possible. You are a guard.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a 1-year deal. I don't know, but that's a boatload of money.
Yep.
You got Zach Martin, who is 31 at this point. Zach Martin is making 14 a year. Brandon Brooks for the Eagles is making 14 million a year. But these guys are 31, 32, 30 years old. David DeCastro is making 10 million a year. He's 31. You look at these guys, even Kevin Zeitler. Kevin Zeitler signed for $7.5 million, right? 7.5. His total guarantees is $16 million. If the Browns say, listen, let's get you up there. We're going to sign you to a 4-year deal. We're going to give you about $11 million a year. We're going to put you ahead of you're going to make the 4th highest paid guard. We're going to put you above Graham Gasol from the Broncos at 29 years old. We'll make you the 3rd highest paid lineman, maybe $12 million, and see if you'll sign it. I think he might sign it. And if you can get him for $12 million, I think that's a nice bump for a guy who was an undrafted free agent.
It's interesting. I don't know if you would. That's tough because, James makes a good point. Well, you tell us the contract he's on right now, 1 year, $2.1 million. I don't think he's made much money in his career, obviously.
No, he hasn't made no money. So if you can, and here's always funny, just front load the deal. Everybody thinks just front load it. Everybody thinks that front loading means you can just go ahead and just pay everybody $100 million. Front load it, G. Bush. In his case, he's 27. He's a lot younger than some of these other guys, and by the way, he's a lot better than some of these guys too. But I think by playing guard, he can get if you gave him $11 million a year, and his guaranteed money was like $28 million. I think he might be like, yo, I'll take that.
Yeah.
We'll see what we can do.
28. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good amount for a guard right there of guaranteed cash. So yeah, I would hope he would take that. That would be a steal, I think, for the kind of player that he's going to turn into be. Here's my thing, with him is I know he's a stud and he's a different breed, but his work with Bill Callahan kind of developed him into what he was. He wasn't this player in Buffalo.
No, he was nowhere near this player.
He became this player when working with Callahan and in this scheme, right?
I think I see where you're going.
Say that James Hudson can't be him.
Well, listen, I think James Hudson is a guy who's they're trying to get the swing guy like that.
Yeah.
I look at it like this. Let me ask you this question. Joe Bitonio is the 4th highest paid, guard. He's 30 years old.
Yeah.
Joe Bitonio is making $10 million a year, right? He got 23 total guarantee, right?
Yep.
Joe Bitonio has more experience, but he's not the player Treader is, or Teller is. I think he's just, he's not. But Joe Bitonio's made Pro Bowls. He's getting $10 million a year. I think if you say, hey, Teller, we'll give you 11. I think he signs up for it. I think that I think he might do it. If he wants somewhere around $16 million a year, come on, we're not doing that. We can't do that. We're not going to do that.
I think you're right. He may get offered that, but he may have to realize that his career blossomed here with Callahan in this offense, and maybe take a little bit less to stay, and maybe that's when you bump up the guaranteed money a little bit more to make it yearly. But yeah, we're going to guarantee you a little bit more, per year.
But the Browns, we'll say this, and we'll say this in finishing on him. The Browns are a different offense when he's in the lineup, and it's hard to say that about linemen. You look at the difference between when he's in the game, he's the best pulling guard in the game. They can
Yes.
run so many different things with his athleticism, and he punishes people. He makes it a long night for guys that are like, man, would you get your hands off me? Offensive linemen hands smell bad. You guys are, oh, you just smell like you just ate a bunch of meat. Like you guys are just, and he's one of them dudes that just leaning on you, punishing you. And the Browns are monstrous when he's in the game.
I think they need to be prepared, though, if he does come to the table and ask for something like $16 million a year, to have a replacement like Hudson or somebody else,
Yes,
Drew
and I like him too.
Forbes.
And
Yeah.
I like him too.
Yeah,
Nick Harris is a guy that Treader is making. Treader's making a boatload of money too. By the way, our center is making a lot of money. And I think they have him as a backup as well too. So
yeah, and not the biggest fan of Treader lately with all of this NFLPA stuff, but you know how that goes.
Hey, look, my goal for the Cleveland Browns. Here's my goal. They got so many people with injury problems, injury history. If you told me we were sitting all of them out, I don't care. David Clowney, Tack McKinley be hurt, Malik Jackson be hurt, Odell Beckham be hurt, Jarvis Landry was hurt. Listen, all of y'all, here's what we do. Get me to week 1. If you want to get hurt in the game, so be it. That's part of the game. But I can't have you out there getting injured like Grant Delpit and Greedy Williams in the first. Nah, bro. I'll give me a substitute team to play these preseason games. I'm scared of them. Good gracious.
Yeah. No, you got every right to be scared of that. I mean, it happens every year. And it happens in almost every team every year. So it is scary, and there's a lot of guys with a history of that. So maybe I should be thankful they're not out on the grass. Although they are supposedly in talks to negotiate. Here's my thing. I just want, there's potentially nine new starters on the defense.
Yeah.
Like, I would like to see them out there, like, walking through, just getting an idea, right? Like, like a lot of these teams have negotiated no 11 on 11s, no contact, no 7 on 7s, but we'll go there, we'll do drills, we'll do this. It would just be nice to have them in the building, get acclimated, get used to the scheme, da-da-da-da-da. Right now, it's just the rookies there, right?
Yeah, it's just rookies there right now. I always take a look at this and say this. What the cat got out of the bag with this. Like myself, there's a lot of people due to the pandemic that their business was on the line if they didn't come up with something fast. Hey, what do? We got to get, my company that I work for outside of here, everybody in the company got computers. They shipped every computer out. You got a monitor, and we did it in one day. Everybody go home. And I mean, we're scattered across the country. I manage people in 4 states. I manage people in Arizona. I manage people in Florida. I manage people in Nevada. I manage people in Michigan and Ohio. That's 5 states. And Texas. Sorry, 6. You get used to it. You just get used to how you need to locate and move and maneuver. And the NFL found out and the players found out, hey, Cleveland Browns were pretty good last year. They won a playoff game. Guess what? They did all of that with no offseason, nothing. They just was zooming and come on in and we'll figure this out. I think now people are starting to see, well, some of the stuff, do we need it? Would it be good? Would it make me feel better in my stomach about, seeing what I got and before I go to the first game? Yeah, it'll probably make me feel a little better. But can they still get it done if they don't? Sure.
Okay. All right. Hey, 2 days in a row, Jake told me don't need to worry. You're telling me I don't need to worry. I might as well just stop worrying. Shit. I mean,
And by the way, you got a damn good football team. You got a lot of talent. Talent usually comes to the top. Our old Browns, yeah, we needed all the practice in the world, and then we still getting breaks beat off, finding ways to lose. So I'll take the rested talent over, really oiled mediocre guys.
Bubble wrap them up, right?
Yeah,
Bubble wrap
put
till week 1.
Put them together.
Yep. All right. Last 2 questions for you, G. Bush. Can the Browns win? Will the Browns win the North? And you got a record prediction for me?
Um, I got the Browns. I'm still trying to figure this thing out. When you add another game, I think I got the Browns. You know, it would have been 12-4, but now I think it's 13-4. I actually think
Yes.
the Browns. I think the Browns have a relatively easy schedule. Past the first game against Kansas City, you look at the teams where they got the games on the road. I think the pivotal game and the quirk of the season is to figure out when you're talking about playing your division foe, that's probably a team that's going to be looking to compete with you all year for the division. When you got them back-to-back weeks, that's a really crazy little quirk. But the thing that really helps the Cleveland Browns out, though, when you talk about that quirk, is they got the bye. So you got the Ravens, then you got a bye, then you got the Ravens again. So either way, if you win that game the first time, the Ravens have to win the second game. That's an elimination game in the division. Either one of those two teams cannot afford to take 2 L's. You have to split at all costs. That's an elimination game. I think when you look at the Browns season, there's a couple of games where that one of those games is a little tricky. I think the Green Bay Packer game is tricky at Lambeau if you got Aaron Rodgers. The first game of the season against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in Kansas City Arrowhead, that's tough as hell. But other than that, you look down that schedule, I don't see any crazy back or crazy games that I'm like, oh my goodness, we can't win that. No, I don't. I think there's a sleeper game. I think the Vikings will be a sleeper. I like their roster, Cousins. I like what they got. Dalvin Cook, Thielen, Jefferson was the best receiver, one of the best rookies in the game. I like that game a little crazy with that. And and think about this. I highlighted and foreshadowed this. The Green Bay Packers on Christmas Day is by far one of the best games in Browns history when it comes to, are you ready to watch that? I enjoyed watching the Browns play the Cowboys with the great uniforms, the Browns, the chocolate Browns. But can you imagine the Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field Christmas Day? And you talking about the Browns out there in them traditional uniforms. These are pillars. These are pillars of the National Football League. And you got them on Christmas Day. That's second to none. I think it's bigger than the Warriors, Cavs every single Christmas. That is a prime time game, and I'm ready for that. I'm ready for that one.
Yeah, no question. A couple interesting points on the schedule while we're on it here. No matter really what, the Browns are going to end up playing Aaron Rodgers. So they got Denver on their schedule. They got Oakland on their schedule. They got Green Bay on their schedule. So they're going to get him one way or another, probably. No matter where he ends up.
We hedged our bet. We probably going to see Aaron Rodgers, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I wrote an article about the Ravens bye week Ravens because I think it plays huge to the Browns' favor in that when you get ready for the Ravens, it's like getting ready for like the wing tee or something like that, right? Like you in the middle of your season, you have to all of a sudden change the way you get ready for every other team and get ready for them differently. Instead of having to do that 2 separate times mixed in with a bunch of games, you only have to do it once for 3 straight weeks. That really lightens the load throughout the rest of the schedule.
Oh yeah, it does. It's you know what you did well in the game. You can clean up what you did wrong in the game. In Baltimore, I believe the way their schedule goes, I think they play a tough game after us.
At Pittsburgh.
So, and I think I've been on record saying I think Pittsburgh this year is a 9-8 type team. I think they're 9-8 type team. They'd be fighting for their playoff hopes during that period. And it's at Pittsburgh after a tough division game with us. And then you come back to us and you got to play us at home now.
Yep.
For them, they best win that first game. For them, they might want to win that game. I think besides the Minnesota game at Minnesota, I think at New England might be a game that might be a little difficult. I think New England will be improved, all depending on whether or not if Mac Jones is playing by then. If Mac Jones is playing by then, I'm not worried about him at all. Because if Cam Newton is still playing, that means by that time in the season, they're competitive. They're winning games. They're doing things. They got people out there. And note to New England Patriots, if you're smart, if you're listening to G. Bush, man, and always come to the barbershop. If you're smart, you would be doing this. Why have you not called the Atlanta Falcons about Julio Jones? Why have you not been knocking on the door? That is a guy that can get you to the playoffs. I told you about those little tertiary small teams. You have the availability to then be saying, "Oh no, you put the Colts above us." No, they went and got 2 tight ends. They went and upgraded the offensive line. They can keep Stephon Gilmore. You still got Cam Newton second year, and you throw Julio Jones in there. I'm just giving you pointers, so you can go ahead and thank me.
Yeah. I think he might end up in Tennessee, G. Bush.
Whew. And Tennessee just got rid of Corey. What's his name?
Davis.
A.J. Brown is a monster. That's another place. That's another place.
They got their
go. They got
their cap in order. You see, no matter who gets them, has to have their cap in order too, because you might be giving up a second-round pick, but the real cost is taking on that salary in a cap crunch season.
And the crazy part about it is, and that's why we talk about certain things in Cleveland, because Cleveland is like one of the only teams that can absorb a blow like that, which is crazy because you think like, well, they got Jarvis Landry. That's a stupid, talented, that's over the top good as far as the receiving core. And the crazy thing about it is the Browns could possibly, sign him and then they can cut him next year and it's dead cap money. He's not going to – his cap number goes to like $11 million or something next year. If the price goes down to – you find people that don't have the price. People always ask me, if you're the Browns and they want a 3rd or a 4th round pick, you're like, we can do that. I mean, heck yeah. Because some people might say, do you think Odell Beckham Jr. is going to play 17 games? I don't think he's going to. Given his career, I had to waver on the side of no. You just have to say whether or not Baker Mayfield has he gotten to the point where his progression is, I'm the man, I'll throw you the ball when I see you open. I'm not forcing the ball to nobody else. I'm the dude in this offense. And you guys can fill in wherever you fill in. I don't care what the name looks like. I'm throwing to where I want to throw to. If he's that guy, you wouldn't have no problems bringing him in. Who cares? Baker will figure it out like Tom Brady does. But if you don't think he's that guy, you just let Julio hang out there for a little bit.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm most anxious about, G. Bush, is the to see how Baker plays with OBJ again. Just because we saw him take off afterwards, and a lot of people want to time that up with, he just got used to the offense. But I think it's a real thing that kind of makes him press a little, but he may have matured past that, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Well, here's what you got to, and I've always come off on this side. As your franchise quarterback, if you want $40 million, right? The top of the food chain, guys, you never hear that about. You are never in your mind going to hear, well, Patrick Mahomes was, pressing because he thought he had to throw to Travis Kelce. No. Aaron Rodgers is never pressed. He got Devontae Adams out there. Have you ever heard somebody say Aaron Rodgers was scared because he didn't get him enough? No. The top dudes is like, listen, you come in and you feel like people say Antonio Brown in Tampa Bay. Antonio Brown and you got Mike Will or Mike, what's the name? Mike Evans and
Evans.
You got Godwin and you got Gronk. There's too many balls to go right. No. Listen, I'm Tom Brady. Y'all gonna get in where you fit in. That is where you need Baker to be. And when he figures that out, you don't got to worry about the receiver ever being a problem. The receiver is never going to be the problem because he's already like, listen, this is me. This is my show. And everybody is understood how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I hope we see. I mean, I think that could result in that offense taking the next step, like even a further step, where Odell Beckham Jr. is just dynamite in the offense, and when he gets explosive, and Baker is like, I don't care who's getting the ball, and he's getting it naturally in the natural organic scheme of the offense. That's when this offense will really explode.
Yeah, it'll be that with the running game, and now you can call different plays, and now you can get creative, and they have every ingredient that they need to make a great cake. They got every ingredient. They got how many oftentimes do we say, but we're losing our offensive line? We need a lineman to protect this backside. We talk about we need a playmaker and a receiver to get deep. Oh, we need a security blanket to run under. We need running backs. We need to run the football more effectively. We need a pass rusher. We need guys. The Browns have every single ingredient for a great season. It's just about going out and guys reaching their best potential and putting their best foot forward when the pressure's on. That's all it comes down to.
Listen, man. Garrett Bush of 92.3 The Fan, host of The Barbershop every Saturday, 8 to noon, co-host of the Cleveland Browns Tailgate Show on Sunday, Browns game days, 10 a.m. to kick off. Go to the YouTube channel, The Barbershop, and subscribe and like and watch his show, as many of you have tuned in to watch him tonight. We almost went 2 hours, brother. 2 hours.
Easy
Just
money.
Talking football. That's it. That's it.
No pen, no pad, no nothing. See, a lot of y'all cats, y'all better start working on your game, man. Stop coming out here with this filler material. You got to get it in. You got to know your stuff, man. 2 hours, we just going off the top, man. That's beautiful, man.
There you go. G. Bush, you the man. I appreciate your time. Go get back to whatever you were planning on doing tonight before I hijacked your evening. And but it's been a pleasure, man. This has been a pleasure. We got to do it more often.
Hey, man, I'm always here when you need me, bro. Always. And we're going to have to return the favor. We're going to have you on the platform. We need you to come on the barbershop and get you over here and get these streams going, man. We're going to have you on, man.
You know that. I'd be happy to do it anytime, sir. You're a good man, gentleman and a scholar, and I appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
And with that, for Mikey on the ones and twos, big thanks to G. Bush, 92.3 The Fan. My name is Brad Ward. This has been another episode of All Eyes on Cleveland. We are out.